Today, we're diving into the world of Panda3D, a powerful open source game engine that runs on Python. Sounds cool, right? And here's the best part. By the end of this video, you'll be able to make a simple little game like this one you're seeing on the screen right now. Yep, nothing too fancy, but definitely a real working game. If you follow along step by step, you'll build it with ease. Now, of course, before we start building anything, we need to bring Panda3D onto our computer. Don't worry, it's super easy. You'll see the command pop up on the screen right here. Just run that and you're ready to go. Okay, now that Panda3D is installed, let's create our very first program. The very first line is where we bring in the heart of Panda3D. It's what gives us access to all the game engine magic. Next, we're creating a class called MyApp. Think of a class as a special container where our game's brain will live. Inside this class, we're calling something called Showbase. That's basically the foundation of every Panda3D app. If Panda3D were a house, Showbase would be the walls, floor, and roof. Finally, at the bottom, we're actually starting up the app. This tiny line of code is what makes the magic happen. It opens up a brand new empty game window. So right now, what we've got is just a blank window, but hey, that's already a game engine running. Not too bad for just a few lines of code, right? Next up, we're going to take this boring empty window and push things a little further. All right, time to make our empty window a little more exciting. Let's add a cube into our scene. The first thing we do is ask Panda3D's loader to grab a model for us. In this case, it's just a simple box that comes with Panda3D by default. Think of the loader as the librarian of our engine. You tell it what model you want, and it hands it right over. Once we have the cube, we need to actually attach it to the scene, and that's reparent2 does. It basically says, hey cube, you now belong to this world, show yourself on the screen. Next, we give the cube a scale. Right now we're just saying keep it normal size, but later we could make it bigger, smaller, or even stretch it in one direction. And finally, we set its position. Those three numbers are the x, y, and z coordinates in our 3D world. The first number, 0, moves the cube left or right. The second number, 10, moves it forward or backward. That's why it's in front of the camera. And the last number, 0, moves out. So this line is basically placing our cube right where we can see it. All right, now let's run the code and see what happens. And there it is, our cube sitting right inside the window. Next, we'll take this a step further and make things a lot more fun. All right, let's add that cube we just created once again, but this time we're going to do it a little differently. In the previous example, we just wrote it like this. The cube was created and added to the scene, but only as a temporary thing inside the setup. We didn't give it a name inside the class, so we couldn't access it later. Now, we're writing it like this. We call it self.cube, attach it to the scene, and place it in front of the camera. Why? Because now the cube becomes part of our class. It's something we can actually control from other functions, not just a static object sitting there. This small change is what allows us to move it around. If we run the code right now, it looks the same, just a cube sitting in front of the camera. But behind the scenes, we've prepared it so that it can move. Now let's talk about how we actually control the cube. Here's how it works. We give the cube a movement speed, and then connect the arrow keys to it. First, we bind the arrow keys to specific actions. Basically, we're telling the program, hey, when someone presses the up arrow, call this function. When they press down, call that one, and the same for left and right. This setup is what allows the cube to respond to our keyboard. All right, now that the keys are connected, let's define what each function does, step by step. When we press the up arrow, the cube moves upward by increasing its Z position. Press down and it moves downward by decreasing the Z position. Left and right are just as simple. Left decreases the X position, sliding the cube to the left, and right increases the X position, sliding it to the right. With these functions in place, the cube is no longer static. It's interactive and you can control it in real time. It's a small step, but suddenly the scene feels alive. Let's run the code and see it in action. And there it is. Our cube now moves with the arrow keys. Pretty awesome, right? From a static block to something we can actually play with. Next, we're going to take this a step further and make things even more exciting. All right, now we're taking cube movement one step further. In the previous example, we moved the cube step by step. Pressing a key would move it a little bit at a time. That worked, but it wasn't exactly smooth. You had to keep pressing the keys repeatedly. So this time we're going to make it much more fluid. Now you just hold down an arrow key and the cube will keep moving in that direction. Much cooler, right? First, we still load a cube and place it in front of the camera, just like before. But now we also bring in a special helper from Panda3D called task. This lets us run code continuously every frame so we can check which keys are being held down. Next, we create a dictionary to track pressed keys. Think of it as a little checklist for the program. If the up arrow is pressed, mark it as true. When it's released, mark it as false. Same for down, left, and right. Then we bind each arrow key to these events. Pressing a key sets it to true, releasing it sets it to false. This tells our program exactly which direction the cube should move at any given moment. All right, let's break down how the cube actually moves continuously. First, we add something called an update task. Think of it like a little helper that runs over and over again every single frame. This is what lets us check which keys are currently being held down and move the cube smoothly. Next, we have the set key function. Every time you press or release an arrow key, this function updates our key dictionary. So if you press up, it sets the up key to true. When you release it, it sets it back to false. This way, the program always knows exactly which direction you want the cube to move. Now comes the update function, which runs every frame. Inside it, we first get the cube's current position, X, Y, and Z. Then we check each key in our dictionary. If up is true, we add a little to the Z value, moving the cube upward. If down is true, we subtract from Z, moving it downward. Left decreases X, sliding the cube left, and right increases X, sliding it right. Finally, we set the cube's position to these new coordinates. And since this function runs every frame, holding down a key makes the cube glide smoothly across the scene. No more tapping repeatedly. Now movement feels continuous and natural. And that's the magic of the update task. It keeps the cube interactive and responsive in real time. In the next step, we'll push it even further and add some more exciting features. All right, in this part, we're going to turn our moving cube into a simple collect the goal game. The idea is simple. We have a player cube, a goal cube, and the player has to reach the goal. Every time the player reaches it, the goal moves somewhere else randomly, and we keep track of how many times the goal is collected. Before we start, we need the random library. Why? Because we want the goal to appear at a new, random position every time the player reaches it. That keeps the game fun and unpredictable. So we import random at the top of our code. Next, let's set up the camera so we can see the scene nicely. We position it and make it look at the center. Then we add the player cube, a blue box in the middle of the scene. After that, we add the goal cube, a smaller red box placed a little to the side. Let's run the code now, and there it is. We have a blue cube we can move and a red cube sitting in front of it. Not moving yet, but the scene is set up. Now we set the movement speed, create a dictionary to track pressed keys, and set up a counter to keep track of how many times the player reaches the goal. Then we bind the arrow keys so the player can move the cube smoothly in all directions. Finally, we add an update task that runs every frame, checks which keys are pressed, and moves the player cube accordingly. All right, let's focus on how the cube actually moves in real time. First, we have the set key function. Every time you press or release an arrow key, this function updates our key dictionary. So pressing the up arrow sets the up key to true, and releasing it sets it back to false. This is how the program always knows which keys are currently being held down. Next is the update function, which is called every frame. Inside, we get the player cube's current position, X, Y, and Z. Then we check our key dictionary. If the up key is pressed, we increase the Z position to move the cube upward. If down is pressed, we decrease Z to move it downward. Left decreases X, sliding the cube left, and right increases X, sliding it right. Finally, we set the cube's position to these new coordinates. Because this runs every single frame, holding an arrow key makes the cube glide smoothly across the scene, giving a natural and responsive feel to the movement. Is what turns a static cube into an interactive, controllable player. Next, we handle collision detection. We check the distance between the player cube and the goal cube, ignoring the y-axis since we're only moving in X and Z. If the distance is less than a threshold, it means the player reached the goal. When that happens, we increment the counter and print a congratulatory message. Then we move the goal to a new random position within the camera bounds using the random library. Let's try it out. Perfect. Every time the player touches the red cube, it jumps to a new spot and the score goes up. That's basically the core of our minigame. Move the cube, reach the goal, and watch it appear somewhere else. It's a simple but fun interactive project using Panda3D. All right, That's it for this part. If you enjoyed, make sure to check out the playlists on the channel for more Panda 3D tutorials, tips, and fun projects. Watching the other videos will help you level up your skills even faster. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep experimenting.